So, Andrew Dickinson, let's cut to the chase. What does it mean for you and the family to have a statue of Jimmy Dickinson erected here?
Good question to start off with there, Johnny. Of course, it means a tremendous amount to us, there's no doubt about it, bearing in mind the fact that my father lived and breathed the club throughout his working life, once he came out of the Navy in 1946. But let me just underline that with saying it's not about us. This statue is for the fans, the Pompey fans. And we might talk about this more later, but it's, he sort of embodies the spirit of Pompey, if you like, from my perspective. So it's not us, it's for the fans. Yeah. And I'm really pleased that they're getting behind this.
You wouldn't have remembered much about his playing days, but surely you learnt a lot after your birth and as you move forward.
Yes, I did. The great thing about my father was he was very keen that I played sports, but he didn't want to funnel me down the football route. Right. Like, we kicked the ball around the garden. Luckily we had a reasonable size ball, we could pass the ball around. But actually, as long as I played a sport or a number of sports and did reasonably well in it, or at least enjoyed it, he was very happy for me to do that, which was a great father to have.
So you didn't inherit his football talent?
That's very kind of you to say so, John. I played football at primary school, but then in secondary school I went to, we played rugby and hockey, so I played rugby to quite a good standard. I played hockey for many, many years, played for the university when I was at university, so I played for the badminton six at school, I played cricket, first team cricket and so on. So generally I was quite a sporting person, but I didn't excel in one particular sport. Probably my best one was hockey.
But do you understand that even in those days how good a player he was? Played for England 48 times.
Yeah. Of course, there were far fewer games in those days.
Yeah.
Yes, you had the home championships on an annual basis, but apart from that, they played fewer games. And it's interesting as you grow up. So probably by the time I got to the age of about 3 to 4, I realised there was something slightly different about my father, in that we had television people coming around to chat to him at home. And again, television had a far, far lower profile. Although there were only two channels at that stage, BBC One and ITV. So to have a television person come round, usually from BBC South, maybe someone like Cliff Mitchell, for example, who you might remember. Clearly there was something slightly different about my father as opposed to a lot of other people's fathers.
You see the histrionics of players today. So it's amazing to think that Jimmy played the number of games he did and was never booked.
Yeah.
Never even spoken to by a referee, apparently.
Yeah. Yes, the game was very, very hard then. You had people like Jimmy Scooter in the Pompey backline locking people into the stands. Sorry, Jimmy. It was a very, very hard game. But equally, my father was a defensive left midfield, as it would be called these days, left half in old money. And you're right, he was never booked, never spoken to by the referee. But that's how he played the game. He was massively competitive, but he was entirely fair. And I've heard people say to me who watched him play, if he tripped someone up, he'd almost look sheepish and embarrassed and walk away, because that wasn't in his nature at all.
Nicknamed Gentleman Jim, perfect gentleman.
Absolutely. And on the pitch, off the pitch, at home, very much a gentleman.
He obviously went on from there to be the club's secretary.
Public relations officer first.
Public relations officer.
A couple of years doing that, and then secretary.
Yeah.
Which I think was the ideal role for him, because prior to joining Pompey, he could have got a role in a local brewery, because there were lots of breweries where he was brought up in Alton. I think he was going to start as a cost clerk, something like that. So he had an arithmetical mind. So secretarial was a secretary job at Pompey was ideal for him.
So Pompey was just in his blood. It didn't turn off after he finished playing. It just went on and on.
Yeah, absolutely. He was a very loyal individual, and I didn't speak to him about it, but I'm sure it would never have crossed his mind to go to any other club.
No.
Pompey gave him a chance. Pompey got him through. Pompey got him 2 Division 1 championship medals, 3rd Division championship medal, 48 England caps, a fantastic reputation, a great team to play with. Why would he go anywhere else?
Now, was the pressure to be the manager just a little bit too great for him? Because I got the feeling that he never really relished that.
No. It was a role he should never have taken. interestingly, I came back from school one day and my father had taken the job and I didn't know at that point. Now normally, he wasn't the most communicative of individuals, but my mother told him he had to tell me what he'd done because clearly she had concerns about it. But Pompey at that stage, we were in massive debt. John Deacon was trying to do everything he could to keep the club afloat. We got rid of so many people. Ian St John had just been got rid of, and there was no one else in the club who could actually take up the mantle of being manager. And my father because of his love for the club, threw his hat in the ring and said he'd do it. But his character wasn't such that it was the right role for him to take, and he had little or no support in it until Frank Burrows came along. And Frank was a breath of fresh air for him.
Yeah. In fact, he kept them up the first season, so he did very, very well.
He did, with absolutely no money at all. You know, he couldn't buy any players. I remember him being on the phone in the evenings trying to get people over from America at a relatively low cost. That was perhaps a bit later on, but there was no money when he started in the manager's role initially.
I mean, my vivid memory of him is at a game at Bradford City where he was installed as manager, and he was standing outside the ground about half an hour before kick-off, handing tickets, complimentary tickets, to the Pompey fans that got off the coach.
Really?
And that was the man.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that is him, full stop. You probably also remember the story about when he had to go out and buy a football for one of the matches because we didn't have any money, Pompey didn't have any balls. So he as the manager had to go out and buy a match football. You know, look at where we are in 2022, that would be absolutely unheard of.
Yeah.
You know, things are very different now.
So would that pressure of being manager have led to his heart attack that night in Barnsley?
You will never know, but my view would be almost certainly that would be the case. He did smoke in his younger days. So he smoked a pipe quite a lot, but didn't drink really, and kept himself reasonably fit. Played a lot of sport, played cricket during the summer, played a lot of badminton here and tennis and so on. So he was a very fit individual. I think it was just the pressure, and as you know, stress arises when you can't influence the cause of that stress. Yeah. And because there was no money to purchase players, he had to make do with the players he had. No offence to any of the players that, who were there at that stage, obviously, but it was very hard. And I think it built up inside him, and there was no mental health support, and he was a very reserved character. No one to talk to, no one to share the burden, and I think almost certainly that led to that fateful evening in Barnsley.
Because even in those days, 57 was no age.
Correct. Yeah, correct. I still have to pinch myself to think I'm 2 years older, 2.5 years older than he was when he died, which is quite a frightening thought.
Yeah, yeah. And how did it hit you when that happened at the time?
So that was in 1977 when he had his first heart attack in Barnsley. I didn't know what was going on. We had a phone call from, I'm not sure who phoned us, but 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, saying that my father had been rushed to hospital. My mother immediately thought, it's likely to be a heart attack. And then it was, because it was Barnes, it was a long way away. And so we didn't travel up immediately, but we found out what was happening, and it hit me enormously. Because there I was at the age of 15, 16, and my father had always been fit, always been playing all these games. I had no idea that could happen to him, so it came as a massive shock.
Mm. Well, I'll tell you what, Andrew, legend is a much overused word, but Jimmy really was a true legend and the only legend. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me.